All right, you guys keep sending this to me and ask me to talk about it. I'm not particularly educated on what's going on, so I'm going to look into it while we're watching the video. Let's see.
A picture of him with former President Donald Trump for good measure. My name's Nicholas Diorio, and Keemstar has tasked me today with explaining to you in great detail why everything I just told you doesn't matter, and how it doesn't justify the absurd article Insider.com embarrassingly released.
The brash founder of website and media company Barstool Sports is firing back today at alarming allegations of sexual misconduct. A report by Business Insider details alleged sexual encounters between Dave Portnoy and two women. One of the alleged victims says she was literally screaming in pain. Portnoy calls the article a hit piece and denies the allegations. NBC News has not independently verified these allegations. I'll explain the allegations here.
Lawyers have been talking to me for you should say this, you shouldn't say this, you should do that. Listen, I've ignored everything they said. I'm going to do what I always do. I'm just going to tell the truth. Shoot from the hip. Give me a break.
Portnoy also taking aim at Business Insider on Twitter. Quote tweeting Business Insider senior politics reporter Grace Panetta. Heads up that Insider is currently offering a huge discount on annual premium subscriptions, so you can currently pay just $4 a month to read incredible journalism like Julia Black's investigation into Dave Portnoy. Portnoy responding, and I'm the predator.
They paywalled it.
Okay, chances are if you're into sports, you're already well acquainted with Dave Portnoy, or at the very least, Barstool. You may have also seen an article or two floating around the past few weeks accusing the multi-millionaire celebrity of misconduct. On November 4th, 2021, Insider...
I was literally extreme pain. Young women say they met Barstool Sports on Dave Portnoy for sex and turned violent and humiliating. It's okay, interesting.
Journalist and correspondent Julia Black published an incredibly long article titled, "I was literally screaming in pain." Young woman says they met Barstool Sports founder Dave Portnoy for... and it turned violent and humiliating. The article opens up as follows.
So just fundamentally, what this headline sounds like, I mean, well, obviously they said they're screaming in pain. If somebody's screaming to stop you, obviously you need to stop. It says that they met them and then they slept together and it turned violent. So this is a very important conversation, and it's part of like sexual assault culture that we need to have. It's that consent to sex isn't consent to everything when it comes to sex, right? So if somebody consents to having sex with me, it doesn't mean that they consent to having any type of sex I want to have with them. And it's very important to make sure that we understand the separation, that you can withdraw consent, and that a girl consenting to sleeping with me doesn't mean that she consents to anything potentially violent or any type, or any of my potential fetishes or whatever. If you understand the point, it's not a consent to all acts of sex.
And introduces us to the anonymous user known as Madison.
Sick pizza reviews.
Okay, I just need to...
The article opens up as follows and introduces us to the anonymous.
In summer 2020, Madison sent the founder a direct message on Instagram complimenting his famous one-bite pizza reviews. Sick pizza review, she wrote. Thanks, fly bitch. Portnoy responded. She was 20 and he was 43. I don't like this age gap. It's not illegal. It's just I find it very uncomfortable. But okay, the conversation soon moved on to Snapchat and text, where it quickly turned the topic of sex. He sent her graphic videos and the other woman he slept with, according to Madison. And in the messages reviewed by Insider, he proceeded to tell him about her sexual fantasies. Okay, so that was consensual engagement. Even if he sent her weird shit, she apparently liked it or consented to it. I mean, actually, this one's kind of common. She wrote like a sexual assault fantasy that is relatively common, where I don't have any control of what's going on. You and I are going to get along so well. He responded. A lot of people have. They do have. It's more common than you think of sexual assault fantasies. But engaging in those correctly takes a lot of trust and communication with your partner. So it can very quickly lead to a very bad situation.
User known as Madison.
Sick pizza reviews, she wrote. Thanks, fly bitch, Portnoy responded. She was a 20-year-old college student at the time. Portnoy, a 43-year-old multimillionaire. The conversation soon moved to Snapchat and text, where it quickly turned to the topic of sex. He sent her graphic videos of other women he'd slept with, according to Madison, and in messages reviewed by Insider, he pressed her to tell him about her sexual fantasies.
Right off the bat, Julia makes a note of Portnoy's age, financial situation, along with how he's engaging with a 20-year-old legal adult.
I think that that's a reasonable context, because it is weird. Yeah.
Which will no doubt later transition into a power dynamic argument.
Listen, there obviously is a power dynamic there. A 20-year-old is old enough to make a decision based on we have an age of consent of 18. Unless your argument is to raise it, you really can't change pivot. But either way, age of consent is 18. What they're doing is legal. There is a power dynamic for sure. That doesn't mean that the existence of a power dynamic doesn't create instant abuse of a power dynamic, though. I think it's weird that a 43-year-old's into a 20-year-old. I also think it's weird that a 20-year-old's into a 43-year-old. I think it was probably a mistake from the beginning, but this 20-year-old needs to learn fundamentally that it's a mistake to date older people. Obviously, they don't need to learn about sexual assault, but you understand what I'm saying. I wouldn't call it's weird. I think that it's weird, but it's not inappropriate. You'd have to leverage your power dynamic in an abusive way in order for it to become that thing. You know, so he would have to basically express that he would utilize his status to harm her in some capacity if she wouldn't have sex with him. That would be an example of an abusive power dynamic, but it doesn't instantly make it an abuse. The existence of power dynamics don't create instant abuse, because we have to understand this, because power dynamics exist everywhere. There's a power dynamic between children and adults, like parents and children. Would you say that it's instantly abusive for a parent to have control over their child? No, that's how society operates. There is a power dynamic between men and women, because men tend to be stronger. Would you say that there's an instant abuse between any heterosexual relationship? No, you wouldn't. So there's a lot of these power dynamics do exist in a lot of different ways. The existence of them is something important to note, but it doesn't mean that there is abuse associated with it. But it is important to note. I think it's a good thing we're talking about power dynamics because we're adding more context to these situations, which I think is a very positive thing, you know? But it also leads into another conversation that I was actually having with Mama Gut before about teaching people why it's inappropriate to... See, this is still inappropriate to me, even if it's not illegal. But a lot of times when we teach young people, it's mostly women, but we should teach young men as well so that they internalize it and think that this is also weird. We don't teach them why. When, like, let's just say it's like a 16-year-old girl and a 20-year-old boy or something, or even a 30-year-old. We don't really necessarily teach the child why it's so wrong to talk to older men. Or older people. We just say it's gross and it's wrong, and we don't educate them on why. We don't give them enough of the... We don't give these kids enough credit to try to teach them, like, the reason why it's inappropriate is for these various factors. Like, they're older than you. They have a particular power dynamic. When they tell you that you're mature, it's not that you're actually mature. You might be mature, but that doesn't mean that... because a lot of young people want to be seen as mature, but they are still gullible and not developed enough to understand, especially from a life experience perspective, how telling a young person that they're mature is actually a way for an older person to try to generate confidence on them. Because you have to teach these kids, it's like, you know, we teach you from a young age to respect your elders, what you should do. So if you have a 30-year-old telling you that you're actually mature for your age, you instantly have a level of respect for them because we've taught you to respect your elders in a society. So you take what they're saying at face value, thinking that they actually think you're mature, but realistically speaking, they're most likely just using it to try to get you to sleep with them, and then they're going to try to move on, right? So we really need to sit here and have these like in-depth conversations when it comes to these things about not just like it's bad to date older people at a young age, but why is it bad? What is the intention behind the action? And I don't think that we do that enough. Because like we were saying before, it's the responsibility of the older individual, and I'm just speaking fundamentally about like a 16 or 30-year-old, to not predatorize the young person. But we live in a pragmatic society. We need to teach the people to try to stay out of trouble as well, or try to disengage from situations that could put them in potential harm. I think I've talked about this in every single fucking video today, but I'm going to use the same analogy because it's very relevant. I guess what we're talking about today is that a lot of times we teach young girls to not walk home alone at night because they can get hurt. If they do get hurt, it's not their fault in any capacity. However, we want them to avoid these dangerous situations. So we teach them practically to avoid dangerous situations. It's the same reason that we teach young kids to look both ways across the street before they cross. It's the car's responsibility to be more responsible, but we live in a practical society and people aren't always responsible. We know that. So we try to teach people to not be aggressors in any capacity, but we also need to teach people to make sure that they try to stay out of a situation that can get them hurt and make reasonable judgment calls so that they can do so, because we want to reduce the harm that happens more than anything else. Right?
Before we get there, though, the actual allegation against Portnoy is as follows.
2 days later, Madison texted a close friend. It was so rough, I felt like I was being raped. He videotaped me and spit in my mouth and choked me so hard I couldn't breathe. She wrote in messages viewed by Insider, and it hurt, and I was literally screaming in pain. She recalled crying and shouting, "Too much, too much, it hurts." It was so painful, Madison said. I kept trying to get away, and he was like, "Stop running away from me, stop running away from me." But Portnoy, she said, just went harder.
Okay, so I'm sure we're going to get more information as we go on. So we started off with the idea that they both seem to like CNC, so which is consensual non-consent. That's a sexual assault fantasy, right? Like we said before, though, not all CNC is the same. A lot of times as well, people have particular attractions that they've never actually engaged with, and they realize they may not like that attraction as they engage with it. It seems like the initial sex was consensual, but based on her account, what she's saying is that it became too rough and she asked to stop and he didn't stop. Now, he may not have stopped if this is true. He may not have stopped because he felt that this was part of the sexual assault fantasy, which again lends to what I was talking about before, where you need to make sure that when you engage in CNC, you do so with somebody that you trust very wholly and that you're like exploring with. Somebody really in a relationship is your best bet, because these things can get very murky very quickly. However, them expressing too much pain, it doesn't matter if Dave Portnoy didn't understand that that wasn't part of the role play. If this is true, this would be sexual assault. You can withdraw consent at any moment, for any reason, at any time, in any capacity. That goes for any party engaged in any physical interaction at all, and the other person has to stop. That's just the way it is. There's no walking or dancing around that. That's just the reality of the situation. So if this is true, and of course we need to make sure we listen to all potential victims, but we need to make sure that we get both sides of the story. This is sexual assault. Yes, this is sexual assault. He seems to be turned on by the sexual assault fantasy. And he either didn't care, which would make it worse if he didn't care, or he thought it was part of the fantasy. Either way, it's still wrong and it's still sexual assault, even if he didn't mean for it to be. And that's another aspect of sexual assault culture we don't talk about enough, is unintentional sexual assault. I know a lot of you guys are gonna be like, what does that mean? I think you'd be surprised to talk to a lot of survivors about how many situations they've been in, and I've heard this so many times, where they were with a person, it was mostly women with men, where they go, I don't think that he meant to do what he did to me, but I felt really cornered, I felt unsafe, and I felt like I had to consent or I would get hurt. And that's where we get into this conversation of it may or may not be sexual assault. I think that it is. It's definitely a violation, but it definitely shows that we need to make sure that operating and moving forward, that we educate people on understanding that they need to create, both parties need to create a safe environment where everybody feels that they could comfortably say, no, I don't want this at any time, and the situation to stop. That needs to be something that's expressed more in general. We need to definitely do that more. It's interesting because there's conversations about asking even for consent for kissing. I know this, safe words are a great thing too, yeah. People have been like, no, that's like pussy shit, asking for consent for kissing. Girls don't like that. Girls don't care if you ask for consent to kiss. Girls care if you ask for it in like a very, for lack of a better term, beta way. I don't know. I've always asked the girls if it's okay if I kiss them, but you can do it in a sexy way. It's more about the person saying it rather than the actual act of it being said. There's nothing wrong with checking in with your partner when you're engaging and saying things like, do you like that? You can ask a person if they like that in a sexy way while you're engaging in physical interaction. Or is this too much? You know, do you have to ask guys? You should. Everybody should. Whoever the person is that's going in for the kiss should ask if it's okay to kiss. Yeah, I think that that's a reasonable thing. I've never had an issue. You just have to be more confident. It's really the confidence that comes with it.
Trying to get away, and he was like, stop running away from me, stop running away from me. But Portnoy, she said, just went harder.
What's being described in this previous paragraph is undoubtedly an SA. Someone crying, shouting, and attempting to get away while being prevented from doing so is undoubtedly SA. If this allegation is true, Portnoy belongs in a prison cell, and that's kind of the point. You see, while the average reader will take a look at this paragraph and instantly come to the conclusion that Dave allegedly SA'd Madison, technically neither Julia Black nor Insider outright accuses Dave of SA. Instead, she cowardly uses quotes from Madison to heavily insinuate that's what happened.
I'm not ruling that that's preventative. That's like to prevent me from suing, because if I
Wait, that's what happened.
Well, wait, I'm trying to understand what this point
of
is.
SA. Instead, she cowardly uses quotes from Madison to heavily insinuate that's what happened.
So it's a very a lot of times businesses, journalists won't touch sexual assault allegations out of fear of being sued, and I understand it because being falsely accused can damage your reputation. But sometimes, like, a survivor needs to tell their story and needs somebody to listen. Them dancing around this, the legalities of it and not actively accusing would be to avoid a lawsuit. It doesn't necessarily mean that they're being dishonest about the accusation. I think that that's something that's important to understand.
SA. Instead, she cowardly uses quotes from Madison to heavily insinuate that's what happened.
I'm not ruling that that's preventative. That's like to prevent me from suing, because if I sue, you get locked in, you can't withdraw it, and if I lose, you pay their fees. So Business Insider gets the most expensive lawyers in the country, so it's like a way to be like, don't sue us. I'm a crazy person. I would probably rather lose like millions of dollars. And by the way, I'm not convinced there won't be a slip up somewhere.
While I assume this was done to protect Insider legally and avoid any liability, it comes off to me like they're either not confident in their own article or they're exaggerating for dramatic effect. And
those things they're both possible. Those things are possible. What I think is also important to understand is that a lot of times sexual assault gets downplayed, especially when a period of time has passed. It is a problem in our society. People, I think the best way to represent this is when I bring up the idea of sexual assault culture. A lot of people say we don't have a sexual assault culture in our society because look at other societies where, for instance, marital rape is legal. It's not legal here. Federally, it's not legal here. Sexual assault culture isn't about the obvious scenarios where you know something is sexual assault. It's about the scenarios where there's more nuance, like before when we talked about making sure that people are comfortable expressing that they want to remove their consent. They could say no, because sometimes just based on the interaction, some people feel afraid to say no and they feel like they have to consent to things that are going to get hurt. And those are things that are very important to understand. But I think it's also important to understand that you should look into a case, the Brock Turner case. This guy raped a blackout drunk girl behind a dumpster, and he got off because he had a promising young future. That's sexual assault culture. That there's a lot of fear for women going legally, and then it's very difficult to even establish it, especially since a lot of times people struggle, not even just women, just people struggle with their potential trauma after it happens, and you have to go within like a couple of days to do a rape kit. This seems like a situation where if it did happen, this girl would struggle with it in her own mind for a while before understanding and coming to terms with the fact that they may have been sexually assaulted. This seems like, again, there was the pretext of they both like CNC. She probably was more experimental with it because she's young. He's probably more established with it because he's older. And they engaged in a situation where she asked or she consented to some of it, but it may have gotten out of control, and she may not understand that she can remove that consent, or she may not have wanted to defame the person by making the allegation. There's so much loading here. I think it's very important to understand that the criminal justice system isn't exactly the best, the best when it comes to sexual assault. I think that's something that we need to understand.
I didn't just pull that out of nowhere. This is evident from just below the article's or they're exaggerating for dramatic effect. And I didn't just pull that out of nowhere. This is evident from just below the article's opening paragraph, where Julia transitions from Madison being quote-unquote pressed into telling Dave about her fantasies to Madison explaining that she's into consensual non-consent, or, a fantasy where she has no control over what's going on. She goes on to say in order to actually do that, Madison would have to be pretty comfortable, to do that with Dave. And guess what? They never did.
She's saying that I did.
Hold on. I mean, actually, this one is kind of comment she wrote, like rape fantasy, where I don't. Yeah, no, we already talked about that. Again, we talked about how he's probably more established. He's probably newer to it. It may just be a fantasy that she wants to try out. It may not have actually been something she truly actually is into. This is something that it sounds like if they did engage in this, they engaged in it without establishing like a long-term relationship. You really shouldn't be doing CNC with people that you don't have a long-term relationship with. It gets very messy very quickly. But that doesn't mean that it's not sexual assault.
Would have to be pretty comfortable, to do that with Dave. And guess what? They never did.
She's saying that I did see the text she sent her friend 2 days later. This wasn't that rough or crazy. I don't know. At least my memory of it. It certainly, I know for 100% fact, there was nothing weird after it was over. The sex I had with that girl was not a fantasy. It was normal sex. There was nothing. If anyone watched that, people would be like, Dave sucks at sex and it was boring.
Dave has publicly said that
It's possible that that's true, just as much as it's possible that that's not true. I don't think that it's a good idea. I don't think that it's reasonable to say that she has to be lying because he said a different thing, right? It's possible she's lying. It's also possible he's lying. We can't just say like, oh, it can't be true, because what we're doing here, what's happening is she's saying, hey, this thing happened and this is true. And he's saying, well, we don't know that for a fact. Fair. But then he uses him saying that didn't actually happen, and him saying, well, that must be the fact. Choosing which one to believe wholly, I think, is wrong. Like I said, you should listen to the situation. You should listen to potential victims. You should hear everybody's side. Of course, you don't want to move forward without any credible evidence. But you can't just make like the absolute assertion like, oh, he couldn't have done it because he said he didn't do it.
They just had a normal hookup, and even though both Dave and Madison's stories are drastically different, neither of them said they engaged in consensual non-consent, so I'm not sure why this was even included in the
Wouldn't that be implied that they engaged in consensual non-consent when they said that?
article's third paragraph. If the objective is to paint Dave as someone who fantasizes about being in control of women, explaining Madison's fantasies don't accomplish that.
I mean, actually, this one's kind of comment she wrote. Well, so what he's saying is that since they included that they both by this account and were interested in CNC, then them including that she was interested in it hurts their narrative. But to me, that strengthens their narrative because they're not lying. That would contribute to the idea that they're not lying about it. If they were trying to actively lie, they would have withheld the information that Madison was into CNC, but instead they didn't. That doesn't generally help their point. Like, for instance, they're going after that point, right?
Who fantasizes about why this was even included in the article's third of them said that they just had a normal hookup, and even though both Dave and Madison's stories are drastically
I don't really see where Madison said that she didn't have CNC.
different, neither of them said they engaged in consensual non-consent, so I'm not sure why this was even included in the article's third paragraph. If the objective is to paint Dave as someone who fantasizes about being in control of women, explaining Madison's fantasies don't accomplish that.
Exactly. That would generally suggest they weren't trying to paint this narrative. They were trying to be truthful. Now, they may not be truthful, but logically, you're helping their credibility because they're giving full context. At least that's what we would assume.
It's also worth noting that Madison claims Portnoy began recording her without her consent and choked her so hard she couldn't breathe.
After dinner, they started kissing. Madison said she became uncomfortable when Portnoy pulled on his phone and started filming her without permission as she performed oral sex on him. I never said anything. I was scared. He was just so mean, she said. Okay, that's possible. Yeah, that's definitely a sexual violation, and that's where power dynamics come into play a little bit. This is very important. So when people make claims that they feel like they couldn't say no, one of the questions is, why do you feel like you couldn't say no? If they said, I feel like I couldn't say no because I wanted Dave Portnoy to like me, well, that's not abusive power dynamic. If they say no because I feel like it could hurt me, that could be a potential abusive power dynamic. If that is true, right? Because being hurt is definitely a big deal, right? If you feel that threat, it's definitely a big deal. Now, he may not have ever felt like he would. He may not have ever. It's quite possible that she could have said, "I don't want you to do that," and he would be like, "Okay, sorry." However, this is why we need to have the conversation about all parties involved, especially Dave Portnoy in this situation over this girl, creating an atmosphere where he can say no. There's no reason why he couldn't have pulled out his phone and said, "Hey, is this okay?" I'm assuming that wouldn't have happened based on their account. And that's one of the problems that we're having here.
Which is a pattern of behavior this article attempts to introduce moving forward. While Insider's section on Madison
Portnoy says the accuser's version of events is 100% not true. Of course he's going to say that.
And
at no point it was not 100. Wait. At no point was it not 100% consensual. At no point did she ask me to stop. At no
here,
point.
Dave eventually responds to the allegation by first and foremost denying it.
The only person who knows they're telling the truth is me. I was in the rooms and I know my history. So when I say nothing else can ever come forward that will be like proven for me being like a deviant, I know that's a fact because I've been in every room I've ever been in. But I promise there'll never be any smoking gun, this, that. Oh my God,
does he have like a recording of it? If he's recording it, does he have like a weird thing for it?
There won't, because I've never done anything.
While it's impossible for Dave to debunk an allegation that's essentially boiling down to he said, she said, Dave shows screenshots that are presumably from Madison's TikTok, where she essentially
Dave's not a rapist. That's crazy. When you got money, you got to be careful. Nobody said he was a rapist.
Boiling down to he said, she said, Dave shows screenshots that are presumably from Madison's TikTok.
I'm assuming she's the creator. She messaged him. Well, so we don't even know if that is her, for one, based on what he just said. She messaged him. She said she wanted to explore the grape finish. She came over. They did. She is of age. They never said, no sounds consensual to me. The article never said that the sex wasn't consensual.
Where she clarifies that she doesn't believe Dave is an R-word.
We don't know if that's her based on what they said.
Screenshots that are presumably from Madison's TikTok, where she
I don't like the presumably.
Clarifies that she doesn't believe Dave is an R-word, and she clarifies that their interaction.
There's a lot of assumptions here. If you don't know that it's them, I don't think that you can, because they're like, presumably means that we don't know if that's actually her. So we can't make this like a firm stance that like, this is her. And she's saying it wasn't, that it was fully consensual. You can't say that because you don't know if it's her. I think it's a very dishonest way to promote that evidence.
Sensual.
This is the girl who's accusing me. Nobody said he was a rapist. She said that. Her word.
Is that actually her? Then how come they felt the need to say that presumably? Why was there that distinction? He wouldn't be doxing her at all. They're blurring it out. I just don't like that he didn't say like it presumably was her. Why the presumption? Why are you being so careful? There was a big criticism for her, for Insider not taking an affirm stance on it being sexual assault. But why isn't there an affirm stance on it not being a sexual, or rather this being her from them?
The article never said this wasn't consensual. I am getting crucified and dragged through the coals on a girl who is openly in the public being like, I never said it wasn't consensual.
Dave also speculates on the reason she slept on the couch and says that it was probably because they didn't connect well due to political differences.
Okay, so they slept together and she slept on the couch. That could be a little weird. Yeah,
He highlights multiple tweets Madison has made insulting former President Donald Trump.
People think I'm like some crazy Trump guy. I am not. I don't.
Well, see, the problem here is, okay, so he's saying that the reason, so apparently afterwards she slept on the couch, and they're saying that's because they have political differences. I would imagine that she knew the political differences before they slept together. So why would she sleep with him if she was so morally against him from the start? That doesn't really make any sense.
Don't like either extreme. This girl was extreme left. Here are some.
Right, but she slept with you, so that doesn't really make sense to me that she slept with you knowing that. She slept with you knowing you were like more conservative. But then afterwards was like, oh no, I don't want to sleep on the couch. It doesn't make sense.
Some of her tweets. Donald Trump is the biggest idiot out there. I'm surprised nobody has Donald Trump yet. 2020, better vote. You're not letting Donald Trump thing happen again. Nope. I'm embarrassed I was a girl and support Trump. Donald Trump, real life monster. Next one. Donald Trump with the...
Yeah, this is suspicious to me because it doesn't make any logical sense. I'm kind of skeptical of Dave Portnoy right now.
Knife and a smiley face. I don't fucking care. A lot of people hate Trump and go bananas on social media. I was not going to say anything more about this girl.
Portnoy also claims to have acquired screen recording of Madison's alternative Instagram called a Finsta that contains proof that she met Portnoy, a threat that if she ever felt like it, she has quote-unquote lots of content to expose.
Portnoy was a dick and lame and grumpy. He gets 2 out of 10 for me if he ever truly pisses me off. I have lots of content to expose him with.
And that she's going to stick to athletes, accompanied by several money emojis. Again, it's also worth noting that Madison allegedly tweeted her Venmo at Portnoy what appears to be a month prior
There's a lot of allegations.
to meeting him.
This is her face again in this video. Portnoy was a and lame and grumpy. I think grumpy is the exact line they use in the Business Insider, how she described me. He gets a 2 of 10 from me. If he ever truly pisses me off, I have lots of content to expose him with. I'm going to stick with athletes with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7 $ flying emojis.
Yeah, I mean, if that is her, that could potentially establish that she was just trying to cancel him in some capacity. Maybe that's why she slept with him. I don't really know.
Athletes with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7 $ flying emojis.
The final Instagram post is a picture of Donald Trump and Portnoy from their interview, and the caption says, "Not her proudest smash." In the past few days, Portnoy has released a heavily censored and seemingly edited clip of someone who he claims is Madison confessing to being a master manipulator.
Why is there so many claims? Why aren't these affirmed? Why? Sully just sent me this. This is Madison. Wish I had this presentation. Vincent and I are also my way. Okay.
If that sounds insane, it's because it actually is.
But obviously, I didn't like those things, so I wanted to take control over their minds.
As you can imagine, having a video of Madison would probably make it a lot easier to identify her. In fact, Portnoy practically did it for us when he hit a single reply that exposed Madison's full real name. Insider's anonymous accuser, Madison, is apparently an actual TikToker with a substantial following known as Eve Culling, and I will be referring to her as Eve for the remainder of this video. While Eve's Twitter account is currently private, her YouTube channel where she discusses mental health is not, and that's where Portnoy's video is from.
The adults in my life, as well as the kids from my school, had this idea of me that I was...
I'm just so confused. Why were they constantly saying allegedly or like supposedly this is her? Why wouldn't they make the firm stance?
Saying that I was a druggie, that I was a hoe, which all kind of true. But obviously I didn't like those things, so I wanted to take control over their minds. And how I did that was manipulation and lying. Definitely got to a point where it was easier for me to lie than tell the truth. So this wasn't just like lying to my parents about where I was going or whatever, which obviously I did. But when I would meet new people, I would lie about my entire life because I just wanted to control the way that they see me. Which, yes, sounds crazy, but it literally became like second nature to me. Like, I wouldn't even...
So is this, are we at a point where these are absolutely her, or are we still of the assumption that they're potentially not? This is the presentation of information is very confusing.
Realized I was doing it. Now, manipulation is a skill that I feel like I had mastered. It was very thought out. It was very articulate. I could literally get
this is obviously shitty for somebody to brag about being manipulative.
Anybody to do anything for me that I wanted them to do. I wanted to control people's perception of me. I wanted to control the way people acted around me. I wanted to control the things people would do for me.
And frankly, this girl has a mental health channel. She's talked about health issues, which is post way after me, but Business Insider knew about and ignored because they're scumbags.
Okay, that sounds really bad, but in Eve's defense, this clip does leave out the part where she later clarifies that she no longer exhibits this behavior and has since been going to therapy.
So to answer my own question, no, I do not still act like this. I don't do drugs. I don't have an eating disorder. I don't try to control my body through sex. I don't manipulate people. I do not lie to people. And basically how I got to this point was through a lot of therapy.
But why this is—
Oh, okay. Well, kudos to this video for showing that full context.
What is really important is now that we've identified Eve, we can establish a timeline of events. On July 19th, 2021, Dave claims that Eve is at his home playing Scrabble prior to anything happening. On July 20th, Dave claims that Eve called him a 2 out of 10 and ranted on her Finsta about exposing him and tweeted that he's a little B-word.
July 20th. So that is when she left. Dave Portnoy equals little bitch.
On February 16th, 2021, Eve uploads a video to YouTube outlining her previous abuse, drug addiction, and her prior adept knowledge of manipulation tactics. On October 22nd, 2021, interestingly enough, Eve's TikTok about sleeping with a man on the first date goes viral, and she receives an article on none other than Barstool Sports, where she's referred to as a star. Funny enough, the article ends off—
It's crucial to have sex on the first date. Told her followers not to make the same mistake she did after she experienced a dating fiasco. I mean, I don't think it's crucial. It's weird, but okay.
with "Here's wishing nothing but the best for Eve."
In all, there's a nice life lesson for us all here. Eve would like you all to do it on the first date to avoid unfortunate mishaps and wasting your time the way she did. Men can learn to take it slow on pregnancy talk. Pretty much everyone in my demographic can be grateful we don't have kids going viral for oversharing kinky sex toys on the internet. But we did. Here's wishing nothing but the best for Eve in her search for the perfect partner, but mostly I'll be praying for her parents and weeping for her future. Okay. Yeah, no, I don't think that's good advice to always sleep with somebody on the first date. Your choice.
Eve in her search for the perfect partner, but mostly I'll be praying for her parents and weeping for our future. Ironically enough, and notably, the Insider article with her anonymous testimony would go on to be released just 13 days later on November 4th, 2021. Because, spoiler alert, the topic of power dynamic comes up later in this article, I took a look at a few archives of Eve's TikTok, and she had 272,000 followers 2 days prior to Barstool promoting her, and nearly 280,000 followers the following day after the article was posted. Even now, after she's allegedly been using this TikTok account to discuss Portnoy, at the height of this controversy, Eve has only reached a total of 320,000 followers.
But I started following her. She identified herself. This girl, who supposedly wants to remain anonymous, did a duet with me on TikTok, like my speech, with her face next to it. I'm not gonna put it up because I don't want you to see her face. Hundreds of thousands of views, and then she was commenting below it.
Not only could it be argued that—
Was this before or after the event? Yeah, that's a good question.
Me on TikTok, her
only reached a total of 320,000
next below it.
Not only could it be argued that the controversy has driven more people to her account than her Barstool shoutout, I fail to see a meaningful bump in following that can be argued if someone's trying to claim this promotion had any connection to Eve and Portnoy's previous romantic encounter. So just to be clear, none of this debunks Eve's alleged bad experience with Portnoy, nor does this prove she was telling the truth. These are the facts and supposed evidence presented by both sides here, and the only thing we can really agree on is that the romantic encounter was consensual from both parties. And as far as I'm concerned, that's really the biggest thing here.
I don't think that we can agree that at all. I so far, that doesn't really seem to be an agreed upon perspective at all, that it was fully consensual. I guess we'll watch the video of, I guess she has a conversation with Def Noodles.
The second anonymous accuser is known as Allison by Julia and Insider. The allegation starts off much the same way, making sure to indicate that the girl is Allison.
Last July, a young woman, Alice. I don't know how you can come to the assertion that like it must have been consensual. I just don't know. Anyway, last July, a young woman, Allison, was at her family's home on Nantucket. She had just graduated from high school. According to several people in the island, Portnoy was a celebrity of Nantucket. Recently, high school graduate from wealthy New England towns and would try to land an invitation to Portnoy's house while summering on the island. The reputation on this island is that he is a god and a king and kind of untouchable, Allison said. Everyone wants to get into his house parties.
By Julia and Insider. The allegation starts off much the same way, making sure to indicate that the girl Dave's interacting with here had just graduated high school. She claims that Portnoy is a god and a king and kind of untouchable in Nantucket. And
I mean, it's a factor that people like will look up to somebody so much they may be willing to do things they wouldn't do with other people. I don't think that that instantly makes abuse. Generally speaking, people are willing to do more things for people that they perceive as like higher status. That's the whole foundation of the halo effect, where more attractive people will get off. Will get special, like, treated differently than unattractive people because they're more attractive. I don't think that makes it abusive. It exists. It's an important conversation to have, but the existence of the power dynamic doesn't make it abusive instantaneously. But I think it's interesting for context to understand these things. More from the perspective of education to the young person to understand that, like, you shouldn't be you shouldn't be idolizing people to the point where you would go beyond what your normal comfortable level is. Because, of course, if you don't express that you're uncomfortable with something and you engage in it, and the other person doesn't know, then they're not assaulting you. Obviously, there's additional context that needs to be there for, like, if you felt like you could express a particular thing. But if you feel like you couldn't express that you didn't like a particular thing because you wanted them to like you, that's not a reason to that's not sexual assault. But if you felt that you were unsafe, of course it is. So there's just a lot of nuance here.
Everyone wants to go to his house for parties. Portnoy later denied this by saying that he hates having people over his house, but that's neither here nor there. The next claim can only be described as unhinged and detached from reality. Allison's 22-year-old sister claims that she and her friends weren't having any luck getting Portnoy's attention, and as a result, her 19-year-old sister might be more his type?
They said, "You should reach out to him. He likes younger girls." And he completely took the bait. Olivia said he was much more interested in her than any of my 22-year-old friends.
Besides the fact that this reads like Portnoy was being set up, what really is the meaningful difference between a 22-year-old and a 19-year-old? Even if Dave was well aware she was 19...
I mean, you just gotta ask Keemstar, because apparently a 19 and a 17-year-old is wildly different in an abusive territory, which is why he canceled Carson. So if you're saying there's no difference between a 19 and a 22-year-old, then what's the difference between a 17 and a 19-year-old?
None of these people have completely fully developed brains. I guarantee if...
I mean, obviously the 22-year-old is more mature than a 19-year-old. I don't know. The question is, like, why would Dave Portnoy be more attracted to a 19-year-old? Maybe he likes the teens. Maybe the number gets him off, but that's all speculative. I don't really know. It could all just be trying to diminish his character.
Dave hooked up with only 22 and up girls. Insider would still be disingenuously wording the content about how he likes young girls.
He was much more interested in her than any of my 22-year-old friends. Keep that up for a second. First of all, the fact that they even have, and he completely took the bait. There's this message that they're trying to present that I'm preying on girls. Literally in the article, they're saying they tried to bait me. And second of all, you think I knew how old Allison was? Allison asked me to meet at a bar, which you'll see later, but not to be rude, but I'm just gonna be frank. The sister's friends, if I didn't find attractive, and I found the other girl attractive, and nothing.
That's fair. It's also interesting that they asked to meet at a bar. It's an interesting thing. If they weren't old enough, could you get in the bar young enough? Maybe they had to put a sticker on
age.
Insider indicates that they have access
legal,
to at least some of the DMs between Allison and Dave.
While we fuck seems we're reporting a message reviewed by Insider. Okay.
So it's sort of alarming that they don't
mind.
Show or reference the ones Portnoy claims are legitimate. For instance, the first log clearly shows Allison.
Hold on, we gotta read the log.
That they don't show or reference the ones Portnoy claims are legitimate. For instance,
something and really want to see you would do anything. How long you here for? Till August 14th. How long you here for? This is my last week. Let's hang out tonight.
First log clearly shows Allison.
I haven't slept in 4 days. How many friends
Portnoy to a bar.
6. I'm in Cisco looking to have some drinks. Yeah, I'm
the
out
implication
no, it's your last week.
Of that statement would be that Allison is at least 21 years of age. If you're going to a bar to get a drink, one would assume in the United States that you'd be 21
Well, it doesn't matter
old.
Because she's over the age of consent. Like, this doesn't necessarily matter to me, but that's definitely a good point.
Unless there's a prior message that conflicts with this that Dave is omitting, the entire section on the 19-year-old girl being more up Dave's alley seems adequately debunked.
That's fair. I would say, though, that I think that especially older people need to be more responsible and ask for age of people that they meet up with, although he may have done that when they got together and she might have just been like, oh, I'm 19 or whatever. But I think that just from an educational point, like if you're an older person, you should be asking for an identification. If somebody looks younger, or really just in general, maybe just get like a common trend if you meet somebody online and you don't trust them, or really just fucking do it just to be safe, to protect yourself. If it's going to ruin the interaction, if you say, hey, can I just make sure you're 18 and not 16, then that person is probably 16 and you shouldn't fuck them anyway.
As for the actual allegation, hold on for a second. The Insider article describes Allison's memory as fuzzy due to emotional distress.
Well, hold on. Okay, that's
on for a second.
Fair.
The Insider.
Allison said her memories were fuzzy because of her emotional stress surrounding the event, but like Madison, she said Portnoy choked her. Okay.
Article describes Allison's memory as fuzzy due to emotional distress. The police.
And now she was in the hospital. Blank stated that the daughter stated that she had no memory of going to Dave Portnoy's house, wouldn't give me the name or tell me what happened. All Blank said was that she wanted to give. So if this is true, I would imagine that potentially that if she didn't remember going to the house, that the reason would be because the reason could be because she was potentially blackout drunk. And this is a very important conversation to have because there's a difference between being blackout drunk and passed out drunk. I don't think that there's a reasonable way to know that somebody is blackout drunk. Because blackout means that they're still functioning. They just don't really know what the fuck's going on or they don't remember it. That's not, if you're blackout drunk, but you're still consenting to sex, like, that's just kind of the reality. If you're passed out drunk, you can't consent to sex. And this is a very important distinction. Her not remembering it doesn't necessarily mean that it was like it was some kind of a violation.
Police report filed after the fact states that Allison has quote-unquote no memory of going to Dave Portnoy's house. But for some reason, the Insider article states that she somehow remembers kissing him, being...
He leaned in and started... Well, it's not uncommon to not remember some stuff. So she didn't remember going to the house, but he leaned in and started kissing me. I didn't know what to do at that point, she added. And we went upstairs and he was really aggressive and I didn't know what to do, and we had sex, and and that was it. And he kicked me out. Allison said her memories were fuzzy because of her emotional distress around the event, but like Madison, she said Portnoy choked her. He kept spitting in my mouth, which is really gross. Also, okay, so this is actually a pretty common thing for people who go on experience trauma, and this person could have potentially experienced trauma, for them to not remember all of the event. They may not remember where it happened, but that doesn't mean that they don't remember specific events. In fact, a lot of times there are very specific events that are very triggering to them. So it's not uncommon or unrealistic for her to not remember going to the house, but does remember the more personal interaction. That's not weird to me. I feel like a lack of understanding of that is a lack of understanding of sexual assault culture.
Taken upstairs, Dave being aggressive, being choked, Dave spitting in her mouth, and being kicked out after their hookup. Before we even get to Portnoy's rebuttal, this entire situation is already a mess with massive credibility issues.
Not necessarily, man. I think that yeah, not necessarily. I think that's kind of your lack of understanding of sexual assault culture. Upon speaking with Blank, she stated that she would stay anonymous. All Blank gave me was the name, bad behavior. Blank stated that she heard that Dave Portnoy only hangs out with 18-year-old girls. And when he was in Nantucket, Blank stated that Dave Portnoy is 43 and he shouldn't be dating 18-year-old girls. That's true, but it's legal. Blank stated that she wants to give a heads up. And she also apparently knew that and still, well, I guess we don't know if it's an consensual engagement. She still tried to date him, I guess, or go out with him. But anyway, Blank stated that she heard Dave Portnoy always ask girls to come to his pool house and hang out with them. Blank stated that she heard David always ask the girls if they were at least 18 years old and willing to have consensual intercourse with him. Okay. That sounds responsible. Blank stated that Works from the fish and meat market told her that David Portnoy came there with different girl every time he goes there. Okay. Blank stated that her 19-year-old daughter went to Dave Portnoy's house not too long ago and something happened and now she was in the hospital. Why was she in the hospital though? I mean, I feel like that lends to credibility. Blank stated that her daughter stated that she had no memory of going to Dave Portnoy's house. Blank wouldn't give me a name or tell me what happened. All Blank said was that I want to know why they went to the hospital. Like, what was the issue at the hospital? Like, did she get like a rape kit or did she get like some kind of like a drug kit or something? All Blank said was that she wants to give us a heads up on Dave Portnoy because she doesn't want this to happen to other girls on the island. Blank stated that we would keep an eye on Dave Portnoy when he was on the island because he shouldn't be dating 18-year-old girls. I told Blank that we haven't got any complaints from the 18-year-old girls about Dave Portnoy. However, I told Blank that if I was going to talk to my sergeant about what she had told me, I then spoke to Sergeant Mack about what Blank told me. Sergeant Mack suggested that I notify a safe place along with detective units and to do a case folder for the detectives, which I did. Moments later, I called Blank to give her an update on what the next step would be. I told Blank that I haven't already called a safe place to report an incident. Also, I advised Blank that our detective units would be notified regarding the incident. So, why did she go to the hospital? Like, was it for a kit?
Again, she stated that the daughter stated she has no memory of going to David Portnoy's house. How do you have all these details when there is a police report that says she doesn't remember anything?
Yeah, like we said, you can forget going to that. She's saying that she forgot that she went to the house, but she remembers having the engagement. She just might have blacked out during that going to moment, right?
In regards to the evidence that Dave presents in the conversation,
what you doing today? Free during day. Okay, can we bang? Yes.
Prior to meeting with Allison, he allegedly...
Are you so nervous, both? Don't be, it'll be fun if you don't want to do anything.
Make sure she...
Okay, that's fair. It's good that he said that. If that's him saying this, then that actually is like that lends to his credibility. If you don't want to do anything, we won't. That's fair. It seems like so far he might be making a reasonable effort to make the person comfortable. Now this is possible that he doesn't reinforce this. But okay.
Isn't nervous and makes her aware that if she doesn't want to do anything, they won't, which Allison acknowledged with a heart.
It was a breakdown. That's why she went to the hospital. Okay.
Before we've hooked up, are you excited or nervous? Ha ha. She says nervous both. I say, ha ha, don't be. It'll be fun. If you don't want to do anything, we won't. Let me say that again. And if you don't want to do anything, we won't. She hearted it. So she asked me, do you want to bang? I say, you nervous? She's like, yeah. I'm like, don't worry. You don't want to do anything. We won't. I'm the bad guy. Where, by the way, they said, Business Insider, they had access to her DMs. They posted a couple versions of her story. So did they look at the phone and just willfully ignore this?
Jumping back to the Insider article, Allison is now quoted as being uncharacteristically quiet and appeared to be...
Let's see. A little over an hour, Allison... And a little over an hour later, Allison's friends pick her up. One of the young women who was in the car told Insider that Allison was uncharacteristically quiet. She was clearly almost in shock, she said. She basically couldn't talk the next day. Allison's mother told
in shock post their hookup.
Okay, so that's why they went to the hospital, I'm assuming, or is for like a mental thing? Okay.
They also include a sob story unrelated to Portnoy, where her own friend...
I just don't like the framing. Like right now, here's where I'm at. I'm just going to let you know. Here's where I'm at. Like this seems like a very messy situation. I don't know what is and isn't true. I'm empathetic to the girls that are coming out. Demon in my house. I also do have empathy for false accusations. So I'm not sitting here saying like Dave Portnoy had to have done this. It's something that it's definitely worth exploring and talking about. I wouldn't make the moral prescription that Dave Portnoy is a predator at this point. However, I would say that these definitely are things we need to listen to. The problem I have though is that this person has taken a stance that Dave Portnoy is innocent. That's a problem. When you make that a firm stance, because now we're going to view all of this information, and we have from the start. We have been looking at this through the lens that Dave Portnoy is innocent, and that removes that creates a massive bias, and it hurts the credibility of this video. When you call something a sob story, right? You're taking a stance that it's completely untrue and fake. However, for what I've seen with this evidence, with the way it is, even with Dave Portnoy saying like, hey, if you don't have to do anything if you don't want, doesn't mean that she didn't feel violated. It's quite possible that these series of events might have happened where the girls just weren't prepared for what Dave Portnoy was going to do to them because he has rougher sex, he's an older, more experienced person, and they felt like they couldn't express no because they were afraid in some capacity. Now that's a very obviously nuanced conversation about sexual assault and creating more comfortable boundaries and also creating more comfortable relationships with people and not engaging in casual hookup culture or casual sex culture. It might mean that Dave Portnoy violated them, but he didn't intend to violate them, and that's a very important thing because that's a lot of accounts from for survivors of sexual assault is situations like that where they slept with somebody, they don't feel that they're a predator, but they felt like they were violated, and that's a very important thing to understand. And it's quite possible that that's what happened. These things can get very complicated. But I just don't think that you should be making these general prescriptions. Soon after Allison's account were Portnoy, 2 photos, a selfie Allison had taken with Portnoy and a photo her friend took on her leaving the house began to circulate the island. Both were posted on private Snapchats by Allison's friends, but they were then screenshotted and shared widely. Before long, it felt as though the entire island knew what had transpired between Allison and Portnoy, Olivia said. Allison, who had depression, said that she felt stressed and overwhelmed following her sexual encounter with Portnoy and that the subsequent attention it got. I guess it was kind of my breaking point. Okay.
Friends that seemingly pushed her into doing this in the first place circulated multiple photos of her and Portnoy, and as a result, 3 nights after hooking up with Portnoy, Allison was apparently suicidal and hospitalized. Once again, there's a contradiction. Portnoy's messages appear to show that Allison was claiming she was bragging about the experience, and in the time she was claiming she was overwhelmed, she's hoarding comments about missing his D, and she was appreciative they were still in contact, even going as far to give him her number. Previously, I mentioned that there was a police...
While she was in the hospital, her mother began to go through her phone trying to understand what happened. After finding Portnoy's messages, Allison's mother called the detective police department. She told police, go put somebody outside his door because you're going to see every day that there's some young girl being dropped off. Okay. So like, yeah, this would generally lend to the idea that there wasn't trauma surrounding the situation. She seems very affirming of it and very happy about it. And if she had a mental breakdown like the night after, this doesn't really make logical sense to happen. It is quite possible that people will look back at a past event and realize that it was traumatic later on. But if she had a mental breakdown immediately and then after that she's talking to him like she's into him, that could be a problem. I don't know the exact date that they actually slept together though. I don't like that there's no dates. I don't like that there's no dates on this information here, but there's dates on this information here. That's like later on in the video, because how later after it was it? That's a very important question. Did they say specifically when they had the physical interaction? And did I miss it? Because let's say that they had it like a month before she was like, oh yeah, I liked your dick or whatever. It's possible that she had the interaction, she had her mental breakdown, and then she tried to rationalize why it wasn't some kind of violation, and then she moved forward being like, actually, I like this guy. It happens all the time. It's not uncommon for people to be violated by other people and them to draw an attraction to those people. I don't like that the dates are missing though.
And in the time she was claiming she was overwhelmed, she's hoarding comments about missing his D, and she was appreciative they were still in contact, even going as far to give him her number. Previously, I mentioned that there was a police report, and I urge you to pause the video and read the entire thing for yourself. This literally reads like an unhinged Tumblr post you'd find on the Onision subreddit.
Not really. That reads like a police report.
Allison's mother called the police to report Portnoy for hanging out with 18-year-old girls. Something that's not a crime or something that you'd call the police for. The sad...
Yeah, but like, especially from an older person, especially a mother or a parent of like usually a daughter, you would not understand that it's inappropriate and that you want to protect your child. So
satire isn't lost on me either that her own daughter is 19, and that's what she's basing this off of, but someone called the police to inform them that Dave engages with legal adults. Okay, philosophy aside, and whether you think that Dave being in his 40s and interacting with people between the age of 18 to 22 is bad, it's definitely not illegal. We as a society have dictated this is the age of consent, and you can't call the police to say that you disagree with it. The police report says that the mother wanted to make sure the police keep an eye on Dave when he's on the island because she doesn't want this to happen to other young girls. But the Insider article literally says that Allison doesn't view her experience.
Allison does not describe what happened to her as sexual assault, but she said she's still deeply disturbed by the experience. I just felt very preyed upon. Okay. So...
happen to other young girls. But the Insider article literally says that Allison doesn't view her experience as SA. So I actually have...
Okay, so that's not what the article says. And I appreciate them showing us that they're speaking ignorantly right on the screen. Allison does not describe what happened to her sexual assault, but she says it was still deeply disturbing by the experience, and she felt preyed upon. She felt preyed upon. Okay. So what they're saying is, I don't think I was sexually assaulted, but I feel violated. This is a very complicated conversation about the interpretation of events from people who feel, or sexual assault survivors, potential assault survivors, or potential survivors of violations, or you understand what I'm saying. What it sounds like they're saying is, I don't think that Dave Portnoy sexually assaulted me, but like I felt uncomfortable about the series of events. It doesn't mean that he did anything non-consensual, right? But again, it brings up the nuanced conversation about like what sexual assault culture is and creating comfortable environments to say yes and no and etc. Now he did say like, oh, we don't have to do anything if you don't want to. At the beginning, we don't know how much he reinforced that towards the middle. Like I said, to me, based on the information, and this is speculative, but it sounds like he engages in rough sex, and these girls think that they like it until they do it, and then it's too much for them. But they don't think that they were sexually assaulted because they probably may have consented to it, but they felt violated by continuing to go into it, right? That sounds like what potentially could be happening. I don't think that it makes Dave Portnoy a predator. I do think that it means that he needs to absolutely be more responsible in his engagements with especially younger women, and he probably should stop engaging in sexual assault. In hookup culture, because you shouldn't be engaging in any type of CNC or rough sex really with somebody that you're not comfortable with. It could be very, like the things that I do with my partner are very deep, and they require a lot of consent. So you have to make sure that you have like deep consent and like a very good connection, and you have to understand what they like, and you need to, there's a lot of ways that you have to operate responsibly in these scenarios, and you can't do with casual hookups. And it sounds like he may be wanting to do things that are require much more of a much more deep connection with strangers, basically.
No idea what the mother's even trying to say here. The Allison allegations are seemingly all
As of July, a young woman, Allison, was at her family's home in Nantucket. She had just... Okay, we were...
all over the place, and that's really all I can add to it. Portnoy speculated that the mother might be playing a larger role in this than even Allison, and I think that's rational, to be honest. I am certain of one thing, though.
It makes sense, but that makes sense to me. That it's possible that Allison expressed to the mother what happened. Allison may not be able to wrap her mind around it or think that it even is sexual assault, but it may be based on the mother's account and the mother's interpretation. Oftentimes, it's easier for other people to interpret events as sexual assault than the victim of the sexual assault themselves. So they might say like, hey, this happened, but I don't think it was so bad. And you might be like, no, that's fucking horrible. But they're rationalizing why it was okay. A lot of times it's like a defense mechanism so that they don't, spiral out of control. That's a very important thing to talk about. We need to just get the proper... Now, she could also just be full of shit. Maybe she just hated that her kids slept with Dave Portnoy. But like, we need to be fully contextually accurate when we talk about these things. We can't just make the most really bad faith assumption that he is innocent. We need to talk about things in the correct context, and he may be innocent. Like I said, my going theory is that like he would go past boundaries that they didn't expressly put down, right? So the girls seem to have boundaries, and then they engage with Dave Portnoy, but they don't express fully those boundaries. They may not feel comfortable. He goes past those boundaries without knowing it. And it turns into a situation of violation that's not necessarily non-consensual, but it's a situation where, again, they don't feel comfortable expressing that they don't like what's going on.
These DMs are real and Insider had access to them. They should have been presented in the article.
You see, at first, it's the police report that was not in the article to begin with from Business Insider because it's fucking ridiculous. The Nantucket police chief, it's so ridiculous, I don't even think he knows it's filed. And then Business Insider has it. Well, why didn't you put it in the article to begin with, Business Insider? Because it makes no sense. It's like Dave Portnoy has been spotted at the...
You know what else is also possible is that the situations could be real aspects of this is also a possibility. I think people should understand that these could be very these claims could be very real, very valid. I think that they are, but they may not be. And you know, I don't want to. You know, it is innocent until proven guilty, of course. These experiences seem to be very valid. It's possible that the articles are trying to turn very valid experiences and very complicated conversations about sexual assault into a hit piece on Dave Portnoy, rather than having the proper conversation about it. That's very possible. It's possible that, you know, that's one of the biggest problems, and it causes you. It's unfortunate these like Business Insider could potentially be engaging of the weaponization of sexual assault at Dave Portnoy, which diminishes the whole conversation in general. Right? That could be a big problem, because Dave Portnoy might be telling his truth and from his interpretation, which aligns with what I believe happened. Right? But do you think fucking Business Insider should be really... Do you think that, from what I've read, I don't know that they have expressed this issue in the best way possible. Or if people that are expressing it even have the understanding of how deep this conversation gets.
Nantucket fish and meat market with like a bunch of different girls. What? That's in a police report from a mother? The mother
it's
also
the article
says,
writer. Okay, well, you get my point, though.
The girl blacked out and didn't even remember coming to my house. That's in the police report. Well, then how is she giving details of what happened at my house if she doesn't even remember it?
Yeah, I think that's just not the... Like, we already talked about like how you selective memory when it comes to victims of or survivors, excuse me, of sexual assault.
What happened, in my opinion, with this? The girl came over, had a good time. She wanted to fuck me, she fucked me. She told me to meet her at Cisco Brewery. That's a 21 plus bar. The police reports, like Dave runs around being like, are you 18? Are you 18? I don't do that. That's made up. But even if I did, that's what you're supposed to do. But I'm not running around. Nantucket police say we've never...
It's important. I want to know, like, did she get into the bar? Did she get into the bar? Like, that's a because it's actually a very good tactic to have somebody go to a bar, and then if they can drink, you know that they're 21, and if they can't drink, you know that they're not 21, and if they can drink but they're not 21, that's the bar's responsibility. So it's actually a very smart move to do that. But I just want to know like a couple of the details. It doesn't matter. She was over 18, so it doesn't matter. But it's just an interesting conversation to have.
I've been on Nantucket for over 10 years. They're like
I remember there was a video of this younger girl. I think she was 16 at the time, and she made a video about how she slept with like a 22-year-old or 23-year-old like football player or something. And he was like very promising on a cruise, but he specifically asked her to come to the bar because she was like, "Oh, I'm 19," and then okay, somebody's house on fire. He specifically asked her to go to the bar, and they let her in. And like, to me, that's the bar's fault, because if you would assume like they let her in with like a sticker that says that she was above 18 or something, but not 21. And to me, that shows that I think that's a pretty that's a bar's fuck up. I think that person went through like a reasonable process to make sure that that individual was of age by saying, "Hey, come to this place where you're required to be the age of consent to go to on this cruise." So, you know,
there's never been a complaint about it. They're saying I have parties at my house. No, I don't. Like, I hate people at my house. It's just totally made up.
The final allegation comes from professional clout chaser Ava Louise.
I never reached out. He texted her in August 2017 and messages viewed by Insider. I noticed you 2 weeks ago and was interested. Later, he wrote, "I thought about you a bunch last night. Not all wholesome all the time. I want to be famous so bad. I'd be so good at it." She wrote later, "I'm a good start then," he replied. Though she responded willingly at the time, Louise said that she had come to an inherent problem with a man in power knowing he could take advantage of a younger girl. Like we said, existence of power dynamics don't create instant abuse. But who's this person?
I hate people at my house. It's just totally made up.
The final allegation comes from professional clout chaser Ava Louise. I'm going to be fairly brief here because Dave doesn't really get accused of anything. This entire situation boils down to Dave allegedly
I don't know the specifics of this person. Well, listen, it's possible that somebody's just trying to ride the situation. But I'm
reaching
not
out to her, saying
I'm not
that he was
gonna make
interested.
that
Ava responding willingly, but ultimately deciding not to pursue it any further. I think Destiny articulates this best.
Louise said it's not just a problem with Dave Portnoy. It's every man that has followers or status of any sort, and it's kind of like terrifying in a way. Bro, this is like these dynamics can appear and be exploited in a ton of different ways. Just because a power dynamic exists, or like just because there's some potential for abuse, doesn't mean that the power dynamic is being abused or that the abuse has happened.
I mean, why don't I just delete my channel at this point? Because clearly I'm not saying anything unique. Yes, I agree with that.
I mean, like, regardless, like, you can joke in a ton of ways. If you want to prove abuse, you need to go a step farther. You need to go one step farther and show where somebody was actually manipulating somebody, or where somebody was actually, like, leveraging something against somebody, right? Yeah, sure. Like, let's say, for instance, let's say that Portnoy started to message one girl out of a group of 20 people that were applying to work at the job. And he messaged her, like, hey, shit, I saw your application, or I went through the application, I saw you there. You're really fucking hot. And she's like, oh, cool, that's awesome. He's like, do you want to go get drinks? Now we have a huge problem, because now her like potential future boss is leveraging an opportunity over her, maybe in exchange for some sort of date or something, right? Now we've got abuse. Now we have big problems. But like just showing that a power dynamic exists, that's not enough. So like if you build time like getting like fame or career or success in your whatever, then every relationship or sexual interaction you have is inherently predatory. That's so bullshit.
One of the problems with Insider is they don't show screenshots for this. I mean, there's screenshots earlier in the article, so I know they're open to doing so, but we have no grasp on the context of what this message was sent in, so I can't really do anything with it. I recommend checking out Destiny's VOD. This article is paywalled, and if you want to watch it, you might as well get some good commentary too. And if you think my characterization of Ava Louise is unfold, and if you want,
that's specifically Ava Louise. Okay.
The same person who's gone on record saying they will say or do anything for clout.
So you lied to people.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's what the media is doing, I think, with this entire virus.
Yeah, so I don't know the specifics. It seems like, from what we know, that this girl specifically, it doesn't have a valid claim. Now, maybe that's wrong, but that's what it seems like from what we're seeing. However, I want to be careful of taking her specific claim on the situation and going, well, because she's lying, the other two must be also lying, which we need to be careful about not doing that. Because anybody can ride any situation. It's not like she called these. I don't think that she called these girls up and said, "Hey, I'm gonna pretend that this." You know what I mean? I'm gonna pretend that I had an interaction, but I didn't really. These people will just jump on the bandwagon. You know, it seems like she might be the kind of person that is more of an attention seeker from what we've seen. Again, this could be misinformation, but it seems like this person has done a pretty reasonable job of showing that she isn't super credible in her claims. Right, but her being a liar doesn't speak to the other people being liars, right?
Obviously, it was a social experiment more than anything else. Like, obviously, I wanted the clout off it, and I was like really annoyed that Corona was getting more publicity than me because I currently have like a song going viral right now and no one was covering it. So I decided to hop on the Corona wave. But yeah, I just did lie to people. Yeah, I did, and it did exactly what I thought it was going to do. Like, it's funny because I created the fake news myself.
This is the only girl who's quoted in the article?
This is the same person who's gone on record saying they will say or do anything for clout, licked toilet seats for views during the COVID pandemic, and created an entire hoax that Jeffree Star was dating Kanye West just for clout.
Wow, she's the one who did that? Shit, I remember that.
I'm sorry. As I was editing this, it just occurred to me. I don't know why I didn't think about it. This article was written by Insider. They literally know that she's awful. How?
It's very interesting because we were saying before that Insider might be taking a very serious topic and shitting on it as a weapon at Dave Portnoy.
I think including her lackluster allegation in this article does a disservice to the other potential victims on the card. Now that we've gotten through each of the three major allegations, it's time I tell you why this article is bad. On the card. Now that we've gotten through each of the three major allegations, it's time I tell you why this article is bad and why it's a hit piece. Spoiler alert, the girls and everything we just discussed are
okay, so we read the sick pizza reviews.
It's time I tell you why this article.
I mean, actually, this one's kind of common. She wrote like rape fantasy.
Is bad and why it's a hit piece.
You and I are gonna get along well, but I will say, in order to do that, I will have to be pretty comfortable with you, man.
Spoiler alert: the girls and everything.
Of course, Portnoy said, and he brought her a first-class plane ticket to him at $2.2 million and took it home. Now, if that's true, it's actually a very interesting catch, to me at least. So she expresses that she wants to be comfortable with him. Now, when I interpret comfortability when it comes to engaging in CNC, I don't interpret it as a financial comfortability. It's more of like a comfortability with an individual. Portnoy, this to me shows potential, and it's a very speculative thing, and I could be reaching, and that's a reasonable criticism. But him going like, oh, okay, sounds good, let me spend money on you to generate comfortability, that could potentially, if there's a pattern of engaging in that, that could show a lack of understanding of what comfortability is and like proper interaction with people that he's engaging with. Because that's not what I would think of comfortability when it comes to CNC, throwing money at somebody. In fact, that's a bad thing. Giving people money to make them more comfortable, or giving people money to do, more serious acts like CNC, that reads poorly to me. I'm not saying that he's engaging in prostitution or anything like that. I'm just simply saying, that that's not what comfortability would be to a normal person, and so it could be it's possible that he has a jaded sense of what would make somebody comfortable, or even not have a deep understanding of emotional connections with people, especially in this capacity. The trip was a traumatic experience, Madison told Insider. She arrived at Portnoy's 4-bedroom home at 3 p.m. Tired enough from her travels that she didn't mind when Portnoy told her they would order pizza instead of going out. Still, she was surprised to find him nothing like the charismatic person online. He was very rude. He wasn't funny at all. He just reminded me of a boring, grumpy old man. Okay.
The smallest defense.
After dinner, they started kissing. Madison said she first became uncomfortable and Portnoy pulled out his phone and started filming her without asking permission. Oh, we read some of this as she was performing oral sex on him. I never said anything. Yeah, never meet your idols, I guess.
This Insider article has to offer.
43. How many nights was it? 2.
Behold,
we had sex one time. Was it good?
Poison.
And it was so rough, I felt like I was being raped the whole video. Being raped, he videotaped me and spit in my mouth and choked me so hard I couldn't breathe, and it hurt.
In the well.
What's interesting here, I think, is if there's video evidence, like this is like the most unfortunate thing. If there's video evidence, it's possible that we don't need to see it. But like maybe this would be something that you would want to submit to the police, but you'd have to get it from Dave Portnoy. So.
Arguably the smallest offenses this Insider article has to offer. Behold, poisoning the well.
Dave Portnoy makes no secret of the fact that he likes to have sex with young women, and to push the boundaries of what is considered socially acceptable. In many ways, that image is at the core of the brand that has made him one of the wealthiest and most powerful figures in digital media. There are the jokes, his repeated use of the N-word on camera, and his harassment of
female journalists. Okay. Well, I fucking see. This does read like kind of a bad faith interpretation, because like, yeah, he likes young women, but again, like that word "young" is like a very morally loaded with the subtext being like underage. They're of consensual age. We need to keep in mind. I do think it's still weird. The image is at the core of the brand. Okay, see, this is the thing. He does make sexual assault jokes. The N-word is bad, but it's irrelevant to the treatment of women, and his harassment of female journalists. I don't know if that's one's true. I feel like I've seen something that's a bit off. That does show a lack of understanding of like women. Sure, that could potentially show a lack of respect for women's boundaries, or lack of consideration. Even if it's not an active lack of respect, it could be some kind of like an implicit, or I don't know, internal biases against women and caring about their shit. I don't really know. Again, this could be seen as reaching. I'm just saying that like it could, if we have a pattern of types of behaviors of lack of respect for women, which rape jokes and not respect and harassing female journalists is that. If he's harassing them for being female, like that could attest to his character. I'm not super educated on Dave Portnoy, so I don't know if he actually does those. I think I've seen one sexual assault joke, but incredibly uncomfortable. I thought it was disgusting.
Core of the brand that has made him one of the wealthiest and most powerful figures in digital media. There are the jokes, his repeated use of the N-word on camera, and his harassment of female journalists.
For years, Portnoy has managed to escape scrutiny. His behavior and comments weren't just accepted, they were expected and commoditized. The 2020 Barstool documentary series produced by the media company features Portnoy forcefully digitally penetrating a sex doll while donning a tuxedo, later declaring—
What does that mean? What is forcefully penetrating a sex doll while donning a tuxedo, later declaring himself the Finger King? What?
Features Portnoy forcefully digitally penetrating a sex doll while donning a tuxedo, later declaring himself
trying to look for that clip. I'm trying to understand that clip. I don't know what's happening. I guess we'll just move on.
the Finger King.
Last July, he released a viral TikTok video that offered women 3 tips for how to slide into a celebrity's DMs. Be very hot, don't be ugly, and
I have to read this. Don't be hot. Don't be ugly and say words I fuck. I guess that could. I mean, like, it's probably true. You know, I guess it makes him very upfront about what his intentions are. I don't know if I mean, I don't know if that necessarily speaks to him disrespecting women. It just seems like he doesn't. I'm generally apprehensive about older people who don't like engage in relationships with people. So I mean, it makes him weird. Sure, I don't know if that really establishes a narrative of sexual predatorization. It shows that he just wants to engage in hookup. I just don't like hookup culture too much, and I engaged in it when I was younger. I'm just saying. Like you should grow out of it in like your mid-20s or 30s or early, not even early, mid to late 20s. Yeah.
3 tips for how to slide into a celebrity's DMs. Be very hot, don't be ugly, and say this 2 words, I f.
The stock price of Barstool's parent company plunged.
Wait, hold on.
For women 3.
Okay, I fuck. Since 2019, he has appeared in 3 sex tapes that have leaked online. The stock prices of Barstool's parent company plunged after the most recent video in which he violently chokes a woman using a collar on a leash. Both Portnoy and the woman said that the encounter was consensual. Yeah, he seems to like
3 tips for how to slide into a.
This is a very this is the thing. It comes to like a new conversation that I haven't like completely orchestrated in my head. But if Dave Portnoy is a very publicly sexually violent person, and you're specifically a fan that's educated on that, and you engage with them, I don't think that shows that that means that you couldn't have been violated. But it shows that you avoided like a potential warning sign of somebody. Maybe you didn't think it was as violent as it was, or it wasn't a big deal, or maybe you thought you were up to the challenge, but you're young and you haven't experienced some kind of CNC, and it was more than you thought. But that could have been what happened. Maybe they're like, oh, that doesn't look so bad. But then maybe, you know, or maybe they weren't educated on this at all. But I just think that it's something to consider if you have a public figure who's very open about how like sexually aggressive they are. You know, you kind of know what you're getting I think that you have more of a reason to know that you're getting yourself into if you're educated on it potentially. Doesn't mean that you have to engage in, like, if one of them had said like, oh, I don't like this, stop, kind of a thing. Not exactly stop, but like, oh, it hurts, I don't like this, something along those lines. It does. Them saying that should instantly end the interaction. But I think it's just something to bring up.
Celebrities DMs. Be very hot, don't be ugly, and say this 2 words, I f.
The stock price of Barstool's parent company.
Last July, he released a viral TikTok video that offered. Okay, right, we already read that.
Plunge after the most recent leaked video.
Wait, both the woman said okay. I used to sling it. Portnoy responded at the time. I've gotten better. What does that mean? I used to sling it.
Which he violently chokes a woman using a collar and a leash. Both Portnoy and the woman said the encounter was consensual. Quote, I used to sling it. Portnoy responded at the time. What
does that mean?
Got better.
Yeah, no, this is absolutely outrageous. Let me be.
To sling it. Portnoy responded at the time. I've gotten better.
Yeah.
What's slogan by the comment? Just reading this really quick. It doesn't really matter. You guys don't need to really know.
No, this is absolutely outrageous. Let me be clear. There's actually some stuff in here that makes Portnoy look really bad.
Oh, he was married and separated. Okay.
But it's so.
Barstool featured early columns like Smoke Show of the Day in which employees scoured Facebook for photos of attractive local women. Yeah, that's a little weird.
Obvious this is being done to.
It's definitely very objectifying. Entrepreneur Magazine described also
poison the well, and it's so unrelated to the main subject matter. The title of the
environment reflected their company relevant at 2.0 did not just or controversy he relished in it.
The article. The structure of this article is allegation, extremely long, uncharitable hit piece.
Force is a question. United fused with female journalists like the ESPN sports caller when he was told to stop posting pictures of her ugly kid and to sex it up with and be slutty. Yeah, that's obviously disrespect. I mean, there seems to be a pattern of disrespecting women here.
Allegation, extremely long, uncharitable hit piece.
I'm not saying that this hit piece. I'm not saying that this isn't a hit piece, but you know, in 2010, Portnoy influencer wrote a blog defending an Australian man who had been acquitted of raping a 24-year-old woman. With the so-called skinny jeans defense. This is very important. I can find this. Speaking. Acquitted a man of rape charges brought by a 24-year-old girl and also avoided conviction because a woman was wearing tight jeans when the incident took place. Also, it would have been difficult to be taken off by someone. Wait. The woman was wearing tight-fitting jeans when the incident took place. Jeans that, according to Gonzalez's lawyer, would have been difficult to be taken off by someone else unless the wearer assisted collaborating. Oh, wow, that's sent. This so-called skinny jean defense is blogger clutching their heads in hell. Jesus Christ. That's pretty bad. How did he defend that? I have to find. I mean, I don't know if I'm gonna be able to find that. What did he say in the defense? I can't find that. Somebody could find that. Would be awesome. That's obviously very problematic.
Allegation. Moving on.
Oh, I never condone rape, but if you're a size 6 and you're wearing skinny jeans, you kind of deserve to be. Oh, okay. For rape, wait, the post has since been by Barstool site, but this just May. Portnoy told Fox News that was only one part of the statement that he regretted. I thought size 6 was like size 20. He said I had my measurements screwed up. I wasn't on. Wait, what? I never condone rape, but if you're a size 6 and you're wearing skinny jeans, you deserve to be raped. I mean, that's not even funny. The post has since been removed from Barstool's site, but just this May, Portnoy told the Fox News host Tucker Carlson there was only one part of that statement that he regretted. I thought size 6 was like size 20, he said. So what he's saying is that I thought that she was really fat. So what it sounds like he's saying is that fat women deserve to be raped. Is that what I'm getting? I could totally see why people don't like Dave Portnoy here. Like it's not like it's not a joke. I mean, like, first and foremost, sexual assault jokes are not funny. I don't like them at all. But this isn't even like a sexual assault joke. This is making a joke about somebody who was potentially sexually assaulted. There is a very big difference. One is personalizing it. You're making a stance that this person deserved to get raped. You're not making a generalized rape joke, which again isn't appropriate. But it's worse to have a specific target to joke about someone else's specific trauma. You know, if you want to make a generalized joke, it's still inappropriate, but it's worse when you make it about someone else's potential trauma. Saying that she was so fat that she deserved to get raped. That's terrible. Like, I totally understand why people don't like Dave Portnoy. Yeah.
On to the next thing.
Okay, so this is how it started.
And I find it, like, I would see why people wouldn't want to take him in good faith on anything he's saying after defending. He didn't even apologize for the joke, apparently. Just doubled down on it. And he's like, oh, I thought that it was fatter. Let me read what this has to say. Hope you're doing well. I'm a reporter with Business Insider, and I love the opportunity to interview for a profile. There's no particular angle here. I'd like to cover full gamut, I don't know what that is, from building a media empire to becoming the face of a meme stock movement. Frankly, I think your story in many ways can tell the story of where America finds itself in 2021. In an ideal world, I'd love to meet you in person. Do you plan to be in Northeast anytime soon? It would be great if we could work something out that makes sense with your travel plans and COVID safety. Thanks for considering, Dave. And let me know if you have any questions. Hope we can talk soon. Julia, okay.
I believe it's somewhere around April, 8 months. I hope you're doing well. I'm a reporter with Business Insider. I'd love the opportunity to
half the time I read something, someone else does it.
Interview you for a profile. No particular angle here. I'd love to cover the full gamut from building a media empire to becoming the face of the meme stock movement. Frankly, I think your story in many ways can tell the story of where America finds itself in 2021.
You find these other people who just don't like me, like Julia Black, who's a but she writes the article. They know she didn't write the article. She thinks she's doing God's work. She's an idiot. And then you have the girls, the two girls. One, I think, is just quite simply the mother. Like, found out that the daughter liked me, and then the daughter started lying through her teeth. I think the other girl's related to, you know.
Julia Black's article perplexes
who? I don't understand.
me. In her 8-month investigation, did she set out to do a profile piece where the goal was to portray him as the Donald Trump of the sports world? Or was it Insider's goal to provide witness testimony that proves Portnoy is a danger to society? I'm unsure if they thought their big Dave Portnoy hit piece wouldn't have turned heads by itself, and as a result used the girls to pad that hit piece, or they added the hit piece because they weren't confident in the girls' stories and they didn't think they could stand alone. Either way, this is an embarrassment to journalism. Let me be clear. If those girls are telling the truth, what we just listened to makes this go from serious to clown court. If any of you ever have an experience like this, please, God, seek out a better publisher.
Yeah, so first and foremost, it's possible that, and again, we've said this before, Insider was doing a bad job of representing the case. However, it's it's very difficult to find people who are willing to talk about, I mean, well, maybe not so much nowadays on Dave Portnoy. But like, again, you know, you could essentially be putting yourself at legal risk when you engage in these types of articles. And also, you know, for just if you humanize this from the perspective of these potential victims, like, it's not like they have these tons of avenues. They can't go to the you know, the police don't really give a shit. We've already established that. And not everybody's going to pick this up and run with it as the main story. There's other people reporting on the story, quoting the article, but we even established before that they were making sure that they said things that would make sure that they didn't get in legal trouble. So it's not like easy to be like, oh, just find someone else. I don't know if that's necessarily easy, but you know.
Friends don't let friends tell their story to insider.com. There are other options.
Okay, wait, does this have anything to do with like the actual allegations? Damn, bro, we are hardcore poisoning the well. Oh man, all right.
For example, directly following the Allison allegations, the next paragraph is just a direct attack on Portnoy sponsors.
For years, Dave Portnoy has been untouchable. In 2020, following the controversy surrounding his use of the N-word, Portnoy declared himself uncancelable. Throughout all the scandals and controversies, Barstool has attracted advertisers like Dunkin' Donuts and Coors, partnered with Walmart on a line of frozen pizzas, and nabbed the rights to broadcast the Arizona Bowl from CBS Sports.
And no, they don't stop there either. In fact,
the fact she's trying to get you to trash me, and we don't even know. Okay, the fact she's trying to get you to trash me, and we don't know each other at all, kind of says all you need to know. She's been looking for girls for 6 months. I know, and I wasn't going to reach out, but once she contacted me a month later, I was like, "What the fuck kind of article are you trying to make?" But feel free to reach out if there's any more questions. I'll let you know if there's anything, if there was anything really important I forgot. So, sorry, this is happening. Hope all goes well. Yeah. It seems like Business Insider, whatever the fuck, is terrible, and they're doing an injustice to this conversation.
It actually gets even weirder.
Next thing that happens, basically, is they go right after our advertisers. Exhibit 4, contacting the advertisers. Here we go. So this is Patrick Coffey, Business Insider. This is before you've had a chance to breathe. Keep in mind, 8.5 months they did this article. 8.5 months. They gave a 24-hour notice that they were going to publish it, and then instantly they publish it, and they're sending this to our advertisers, being like, hey, we're going to write a story about who stays with Barstool and who goes, because have you heard these allegations? Oh, by the way, we wrote the allegations.
The insider way is to take a few unproven anonymous allegations.
YouTuber star David Dobrik has been dropped by brands like Chipotle, blah, 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 after sexual assault allegations against a former member of the block squad.
Told them Portnoy saying the N-word a few times, and then fire off an email, put direct pressure on sponsors, and just source their own article. I understand that people are willing to look past this when they do this to controversial figures like James Charles and David Dobrik, and we can celebrate till the cows come home when they lose their sponsors, but you can't deny this tactic is anti-YouTube and can easily do damage to the wider sponsor ecosystem. I almost got whiplash the way this article jumps from
Barstool's official Instagram page posted a picture of a house whose front porch had a huge sign that said, Dave, please come in. We have pizza and 10 out of 10.
To a conversation on how women around Portnoy have told Insider that they feel like he's abused his fame and power to
For many, Dave Portnoy is not a hero, is a hero, but some in his orbit, particularly women, have told Insider they felt as though he abused his fame and power and put them in compromising positions. Insider spoke with more than 24 people with direct experience with Portnoy and Barstool, including 8 current or former employees, some women as young as 19 who had no professional connection to Portnoy, recounted having sexually
put them in.
Well, this sounds like we've established a pretty solid, as bad as the article might be, there seems to be some pretty reasonable, I don't know if it's evidence or at least accusations that lend to a larger narrative. Like, I do believe, based on like all the jokes and the way that he seems to treat women, specifically like the doubling down on the rape joke kind of fucked me up, that he would treat women like shit or as sexual objects in some capacity.
Compromising positions, especially when this article tries so hard to establish a power dynamic, but has to deliver a cell phone because Julia immediately concedes none of these women had any sort of professional connection to Portnoy.
Who had no professional connection to Portnoy account. But wait, why does that discredit what she's
saying? For a cell phone, because Julia immediately concedes none of these women had any sort of professional connection to Portnoy.
Wait, why does that? No, she doesn't say that. So Insider spoke with 24 people with direct experience with Portnoy, including 8 current or former employees. They did have a professional connection. And then there were some as young as 19 who had no professional connection. They didn't say that none of them had professional connections. That's just a really bad interpretation of what you're showing. It's like, I'm going to assume that they just slipped up on that take because they're showing us that they're wrong. with what they said.
Especially when this article tries so hard to establish a power dynamic, but has to deliver a cell phone because Julia immediately concedes none of these women had any sort of professional connection to Portnoy.
But none, that's not true though, right? It's because 8 current or former employees, they would literally have that. These are 2 different distinctions. These are 8 former or current employees, and then these are other women, some women as young as 19. These are a different group of people. They spoke with more than a dozen people, so 8 of the, let's say more than a dozen, let's say 13, I don't know. 8 of them were employees or former employees. 5 of them weren't, by that logic. Okay, you should probably just have read this a little better.
For his cell phone because Julia immediately concedes none of these women.
This is like the problem. I feel like this video is like as bad as the Business Insider. Like this video is just as bad as Insider with supporting Dave Portnoy as like the Insider was like trying to defame Portnoy. You know what I'm saying? There seems to be really good, accurate information in that lends to the credibility of the person they're talking about, but then there's just dog shit smeared over it. It kind of hurts the core of the video.
Had any sort of professional connection to Portnoy.
Just because a power dynamic exists, or like just because there's some potential for abuse, doesn't mean that the power dynamic is being abused or that the abuse has happened. That's another step. You have to prove that, right? Like, oh my God, like she fucked that guy.
For sure, but like this is
then married him just because he had a very successful career and like could provide.
But then before, Destiny brought up about how like basically boss to employee dynamics and how that is an existence of a power dynamic because the employee could feel like they would lose their job if they didn't engage in some capacity. And then right back here we established that 8 of them were current or former employees, and that potential power dynamic exists right there. You kind of, what is that, what, self-own? You kind of self-owning yourself with your own logic here.
Like, oh my God, money to take everything. Like, this is an abuse of power, right?
In conclusion, this story isn't over. This means that while today it might.
Wild how Business Insider drops an incredibly spicy article on Barstool president. Every blue check journal lauds the brave, incredible work. Dave posts evidence that directly contradicts most claims. The EIC blocks people, crickets from management, no updates.
Clear that Dave is innocent in some aspects of the situation. New evidence could come to light tomorrow that contradicts some or everything we discussed today. What I can tell you with certainty is that we know this article has not been updated following Dave's response. And this is something I and the rest of you should find very concerning. Along with that, when Portnoy reached out to the editor-in-chief of Insider for a fair interview, Nicholas Carlson denied the offer, saying that we're gonna let the story speak for itself.
I asked them all nicely, fairly. I said, I will come to you to do an interview as long, here it is. Here's the
Hi, Nicholas. We would like to formally invite you to join the Dave Portnoy Show on Tuesday to talk about the article that was published in Business Insider with Dave. We'll make it as fair as possible, and you can bring as many people as you'd like. You can also video record the whole conversation and repost it for your own business. Thank you so much, or thank you, the Dave Portnoy Show. Thanks for the invitation on behalf of Patrick, Matt, myself, and anyone else invited. We will decline. We are going to let the story speak for itself. Please send future invitations or requests for comment to our VP of Communications, Mario Ruiz, who I've added. Thanks again, Nicholas. Okay, Global Editor-in-Chief. I mean, I'm not against that perspective. I mean, like, fundamentally what they were trying to do, well, there might be an aspect of a smear piece there as well, but they were trying to take accounts from potential survivors and put that out there and then let it run its course. I understand that.
The text exchange. We'd like to formally...
Because if they responded, then now they're speaking over potential survivors. Unless those girls are going to go on and have the conversation with Dave Portnoy. And that could potentially be a traumatic experience for them.
We invite you to join the Dave Portnoy Show on Tuesday to talk about the article that's published in Business Insider about Dave. We'll make it as fair as possible. You can bring as many people as you like. You can also video record the whole conversation and repost for your own purposes. I would have liked to ask them, you had possession of the police report, you didn't put it in. You've seen the DMs, your story directly contradicts it. Like, how do you explain that? Thanks for the...
I don't think that the DMs necessarily directly contradict it.
Invitation on behalf of...
I think he thinks that. I think that he thinks that, and I'll get into that as my closing out.
Myself, anyone else invited will decline. We're going to let the story speak for itself.
You know I can't do that because I just forget. I think that he actually thinks that he's innocent, which is why I do think, like I said before, that this is like a very complicated situation where he didn't actively try to predatorize somebody or violate somebody, but there was the potential for a violation.
What does that even mean? You haven't put in any of the other facts. You wrote a hit piece and won't put in the stuff that directly contradicts your own reporting.
After all of this, after how unapologetically biased this article is written, they gave Julia a job.
Nicholas Carlson, again, the guy who refused to talk. I'm proud to announce that we've hired Julia Black as a correspondent for the Insider. She previously worked with us as a freelancer. She is persistent, fair, talented writer and a delight to work with. That was yesterday at 5 o'clock. And I don't mean this exaggerating. They belong in prison.
Are you kidding me right now? Because of this? This is the editorial standard at insider.com? Anyways, guys, that's it for part 1. This story will be updated, and I'm sure we're gonna have more to talk about, as right now there are talks of a New York Mag article.
What the New York Magazine didn't count on was that I would destroy the By piece in 72 hours. Now the
See, that's what he's saying. I don't think that he destroyed the piece, based on this video.
author of the New York Magazine hit piece, who is literally friends with every blue checkmark loser who hates us, has been hung out to dry. He needs me for his article, or else it's dead on arrival.
This is the top of the first. Nobody on, nobody out. Like I am just beginning.
Will.
Yeah. All right. So a lot of this is very speculative. I think we need to keep that in mind. A lot of this is a very speculative type of a situation. Like a lot of times these things are when you have conversations about sexual assault, because it's very difficult to really, there's so many different factors when it comes to these situations. My personal take so far from what I've seen is that there seems to be a pattern for Dave Portnoy, specifically, well, being honestly disrespecting women, but also engaging in more violent sex. He seems to be open about it. It doesn't seem to be a secret. He goes after younger. I don't want to say goes after in like a predatory sense. I'm not trying to load it, but he seems to have more of an attraction to younger girls, which is legal. I think it's weird, but it's legal. The issue with that specifically is that these younger girls may not understand the implications of what they're saying to Dave Portnoy in the context where he's saying, "Oh, I like really aggressive sex." They might have fantasies as well. It's common, but they don't understand what that means in practice, especially with somebody who's older, who probably has, they understand their own sexual desires. They know what they like, and it seems to be rather intense. He seems to be a bit more selfish in bed. There's nothing inherently wrong with these things, but these girls may have gotten into a situation they felt that they didn't realize they were getting into, and due to part of lack of maturity. It seems like he engages with these girls. It's more than they expected. They feel violated. They possibly say no, though I don't know if we can necessarily prove that they say, "No, I don't want this." But they feel violated, but they don't expressly say no because they don't feel comfortable. And that's very common to happen, especially in these situations. Not only do you need to make a comfortable atmosphere to say no to people, and I know that he said it one time in a DM, but that doesn't establish a pattern. I know that he that not only is it necessary to make sure that you establish a comfortability with saying no, or I don't like this, or we need to stop. It makes it exponentially more difficult to do that when you're engaging in CNC, because some things can be lost to interpretation. No doesn't necessarily mean no when you're in a CNC type sexual encounter, right? Which is why you need to be very in tune, and with the person that your partner, you need to be very in tune with them. You guys need to be on the same page. Things can get lost in translation very easily. I think that this situation is a recipe for disaster. Do I think Dave Portnoy is a predator? I don't think so as of right now. I think he's an asshole. I think that there's plenty of evidence to show that Dave Portnoy is like kind of a bad person, I would say. Somebody you shouldn't try to engage with sexually. I think a lot of these young girls, they may be educated on how much of a shitty person he is, but they don't understand how shitty he is until they get to know him. But that's not necessarily his fault. If anything, you have plenty of warning signs because he's a fucking celebrity to know, like, this is a red flag. You should probably stay away from this guy. I'm not trying to victim blame here, but I think it's worth mentioning, because like this is a person that everybody knows, and you know him for his controversial shit. It's not like he's fucking, I don't know, Post Malone that happens to love to fucking sodomize people, right? Yeah, I think that this is a very big issue of interpretation when it comes to these things, when it comes to the interaction. And I think that there needs to be a better job. I mean, honestly, I think that Dave Portnoy needs to do a much better job at creating a more comfortable atmosphere for the people that he engages with to say no. That's what it sounds like. It could be worse. Maybe the allegations aren't credible. They seem fairly credible to me, but I'm not going to make the moral prescription that he's a bad guy or deserves some kind of cancellation or that he's some kind of a sexual predator. But I do think that this is a conversation that's worth having. So